Hey, Patrick.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hey, George.
Welcome. Okay, I believe we can get started. I think Mira is on his way as well, but let's just get started, and if he's coming, he'll surely arrive soon. So let me share my screen in a short moment. Just a second. Okay. All right. Okay, so welcome to August 17, 2023, RSV6 community call. Antitrust, Hyperledger antitrust policy is in notice, and I can't help myself to be shocked that it's already 17th of August. Time flies really quick. As I'm marking these dates, I'm just shocked that it's already this late, but nevertheless, that's a detour. For starter, yeah, I'll just get started with checking the agenda. So I put here some points. Lots of PRs been apparently dealt with recently, but do you guys have any other item you would like to add here? I also put some in meeting discussion. Would you like to add something more?
It might come up as we go along, but just some indie API types, like features. What am I trying to say? Like feature dependency exclusion stuff would be good to talk about at the end.
I see. Yeah, I think we'll run into that. I think something else been done in that regard. I'm not sure if you catch it, but yeah, we can definitely get into discussion as we talk about this PR.
Cool, perfect.
All right. Okay, so I'll just get started then with this agenda we have on the screen. By the way, welcome Mira. Mira is connected, so we are all four of us. So mentorship updates. So for Nan is not today on the call, so I'll do a short update on her behalf. So She's opened a PR, a number of PRs a while ago, but essentially the latest PR is linked on the wiki, which kind of includes all of the recently done work, all the smaller PRs combined. So this is like top of the branch. There was like discussions. We were having a bunch of discussions in this original PR over here. And some things has been changed, and there was very good observations about a variety of things from Nayan. So we got it sorted. Essentially, yeah, all of that work is included in this PR against the dev branch, I guess. Just to check. Yeah, that must be the middle one. So we got some simplification done, and I guess if you're curious, you can check out the discussions we had. We did some modifications to the SQL schema, and that let us trickle down further to simplifications around the storage, like data retrieval layer. It's looking good. And Nayan is now busy integrating Aries VCX, basically starting with creating wallet and integrating connection protocol, basically the inviter side. So it should be relatively simple. Nevertheless, that's where Nayan is right now, and what she's working on.
Hey, in the end, is that code gonna move into the Aries VCX repo or into a new
Yeah, that's
Hyperledger?
a good question. I'm not sure, honestly. I think we can start with Aries VCX. We could it would be nice to use it in the CI if we can use this if we also get a client, then perhaps integrate it, write some end-to-end tests. That would be pretty cool. So I think it could move under Aries VCX repo, or alternative is just to create a new repo under Hyperledger, but it'll definitely reside somewhere under Hyperledger in the end.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, UniFi of wrapper. We also don't have Swapnil. So George, do you have any news about any news from Swapnil?
Yeah, so there was those issues with building for emulators that we talked about, but ultimately we sort of pushed it to the side for now because it builds for ARM64, which is the main Android binary that 90% of people use, and that was building, and then there was some issues after a rebase, which I think had to do with some DVDR feature stuff, but I don't think it was anything major. I think the script just needed some simple updates.
Right. Yeah, I was worried about that.
What's that, sorry?
I was worried about that because I knew that that you've been and the Swapnil been using VDR tools version of the features, and we basically removed that recently, right? So after the rebase, he had to migrate to IndieVDR and the modular libs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it was issues with libzmq, but I don't think it was anything major. So if I'm right about that, that should be resolved today, hopefully. And in parallel with that, I believe he's been looking at the connection protocol, trying to get more familiar with that. And we had a session where we sort of planned out what the app is going to look like for the connection protocol stuff, because we're focusing on the invitee side of the connection flows first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for update. That sounds good. We are kind of on a similar spot right now with both projects, starting to look into connection protocol essentially, but from different sides, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, and I guess like you will need to sort out the mediator as well. Are you gonna use the simple kind of dummy mediator implementation
I
for
think
starter?
definitely at first, yeah, because there is a bit of overhead to make a mediator client.
Yeah.
As you
Yeah, we don't have the mediator as well. So I mean, there are other mediators, but yeah, there will be definitely a lot of overhead to adopt some third-party project now and make client for it. So I think it's definitely reasonable to start with the dummy one. Okay, let's run quickly through the recent work done. So I mean, this stuff is on GitHub. I was wondering today if it's redundant, then that we do it. We like go through these things that we've done, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool if somebody wants to get a quick report what was happening, or also for our record, like what we did on which week. We can kind of have a quick easier overview, I guess, of the work we've been doing, let's say over the summer. We just click through a bunch of these pages. So yeah, I'm gonna continue I'm gonna continue doing this, unless there's some objections explicitly, but let's leave that to the end of discussion. So we had like some Anoncreds RS contribution merged, and there's, by the way, another one in progress. So this was from Bogdan. I think we already mentioned this last week. This was some improvements on like internal Rust APIs, which ultimately will help us to consume Anoncreds RS more conveniently and make the integration easier. And this has been merged this week. So very happy for that. Next up, we had IndieVDR update as well. So last week, the previous call, I was mentioning we integrated IndieVDR, and since then, Miro has updated the dependency to the latest version. So there was some improvements there, especially that was needed to get us the node exclusion feature while not using some sort of custom forks. So this kind of simplify things a lot. And also it's that to, oh yeah.
Sorry. Was it previously pointing at Mira's fork of it?
Yeah, it was actually Mira's fork before, and then it was my fork last week, and now it's finally the main.
Okay, nice, cool.
Yeah, from fork to fork. Yeah, so and also on similar note, we had some IndieVDR contributions. I don't have the PRs here. It was actually old PRs from Miro as well, and that was it was old contributions, but they just got merged recently. So we finally have that in IndieVDR. It's a part of the kind of the revision of IndieVDR using currently. And that's like most for Aries VCX specifically. Most importantly, it includes now the VDR proxy client. So which enables calling Ledger through HTTP proxy rather than dealing with 0MQ, which can be useful in cloud environments especially. Yeah, next up on upgrades, we had upgrade CredX to 1.01. There was some hiccups, some stuff which had to be sorted out, some things to be aware of. Apparently there's two ways to verify a proof right now with CredX. So you can do verify presentation or verify presentation legacy, and these are apparently not like completely backwards compatible. I'm not sure if it relates to the version on which the credentials been issued, or what exactly are the differences between these two, but it does have some differences between them. I don't know. Bogdan, do you have are you aware of like what's the actual difference between the two?
Yeah, not that easy to tell actually. I tried to look into it, but it essentially boils down to a lot of cryptographic values that I simply cannot comprehend. However, I did try, in I don't remember all the things that I tried, but I don't think it's necessarily related to how the credentials are issued, though I might be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. But I remember that I was trying to do the migration like at the start of the test, just to see what happens, for instance, and it would still fail because um, I think the presentation would be built with the old API, but then it would try to get verified with the new API and would still create a mismatch.
Right.
I don't know for sure, honestly.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think
In a
that
way,
could
it's
essentially
feature flag now, right?
so I think it could be essentially I can further look into it and maybe try to do like a migration back and forth, I guess. I don't know.
No, I think it's all right. Just probably for any well, that's probably not you, George, but for any verifier, possibly. It's something to be aware of. Basically, this feature. I guess this is the correct implementation. That's why it's not legacy, but rather than the other one. So this is the new kind of implementation. I guess is the default, but whoever would
Yeah,
want to.
so I tried to make sense of what was different and maybe try to accommodate that in the migration if it was even possible. I don't know. So again, it might be credential related, it might not, but I really can make sense of it. So what I essentially ended up doing once I realized that they provided this kind of legacy verification method, um, I figured that we could try the new one, and if that fails, then have the old one behind the feature flag. So people that don't want to have to deal with the legacy verification, they don't do that. But people that want to allow it, maybe even just for some limited time, like just a specific release to kind of flush them out, they can still do that, I guess. But I guess that if it is credential related, you still need to do a reissuance, and I believe that it was you that mentioned that that's what also Stephen Curran recommends, that the credentials be reissued. So it might be credential related in the end. I would expect them to know more.
Right. Okay. We'll see. Maybe we'll gather also ourselves some more information with after doing some internal testing as well. But the feature is something to be aware of with this PR being merged.
Yeah, it would be nice to know when we can turn it off. I mean, if it's the case that the old version of Credex will generate invalid will generate presentation which is invalid without the feature flag turned on or not, that would be something that would be really nice to know. For example, if we would have to like force update our clients to the new version so that we can turn the feature flag off or something.
Yep. Okay, moving on to next item. This was kind of George's interest here, this topic. So what we have done is we have Miro has trimmed down the dependencies of Indy Ledger Response Parser Crate, which was used by like IndyVDR client, Ledger client, which was previously dependent on Indy API types, but it no longer is. So the cargo toml for the Indy Ledger Response Parser removes URSA and Indy API types. Instead of that, however, it includes uncred signatures. And as I'm looking at it now, Miro, what is actually the reason
Yeah.
That the seal signatures is needed. Is there some data structures, I suppose?
There is it's used in a data structure in the revocation registry delta or something. I'm not entirely sure if it's necessary to include this dependency. It may also be the case that in DVDR already exposes it, so we may not need to include it explicitly, but I have not investigated that. However, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if it's better to depend on it explicitly or through in DVDR, but either way, it's currently used in a data structure, and yeah, it may also be the case that in DVDR already exposes this data structure. I'm not sure if they are entirely equivalent. I haven't done too much testing. The main purpose this was to get rid of the dependency. But yeah, I think regardless, modular ellipse will probably still depend on IndieAPI types through Indie Wallet, regardless of this PR. So it's probably not.
Well, I guess, but still, it could be, I guess, helpful for George, as George, you're not using in the wallet, as I know, right? So this will definitely trim some dependencies for you. What do you think about this one? Did you catch this PR, or do you have some?
I did skim it when it came up, but I didn't review it. Thank you. This makes me very happy. This PR. I made a follow-up as well. A follow-up PR just moments ago. If you don't mind clicking on that, it should be in the thread for this PR.
Okay. Try hide in the API types from module libs consumers.
Yeah, I just wanted to try something because I noticed in that previous PR, Indie API types was still forced to be exposed through VCX Core. So this was me just trying to finish the tie on that last PR.
I didn't notice this.
Yeah, which I think it does. So now, from the test I ran before it, if you're using just modular libs without with no default features, without any VDR tools, it cuts the dependencies down from like 550 to 300, which is really great.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it's thanks to that previous PR. I just needed this final touch, unless anyone sees something wrong with this.
I think this should work.
Anyway, yeah, I'll convert this to not a draft soon and let you guys review it.
Okay, cool. Thanks for this sketch. And happy that you're happy. Happy that you're making people happy.
Yes, thanks for making me happy.
Okay. Next up, some kind of feature PRs we had. So we had addition to parse unqualified DITs with parser crate, DIT parser. So now it can accept both qualified and unqualified. Obviously, I guess this is not the end game. This is just like beginning. If we want to kind of have a dual support for both unqualified and qualified, while using the parser itself and the types. What's the kind of, I guess, what's the kind of I don't know, expected follow-up, I guess, in order to support. So right now, we just to kind of like summarize the current state of things and where we are going. So right now, Win Connection Protocol, we support unqualified DITs. And with the Exchange Protocol, we are supporting pretty much DIT peer only, right? In there, which is qualified DIT.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, okay.
But like the point of this PR was just to allow like a gradual transition from unqualified DIDs to qualified DIDs, so that we can use a single type to represent both, and then like smoothly remove any uses of unqualified DIDs.
Yeah,
that's
right.
basically taking out the learnings that we got from our previous attempts to migrate to qualified DIDs.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just for others, obviously qualified DID is qualify with like DID method and then the DID ID, whereas the all unqualified DID, they just had essentially what we now call DID ID, DID ID, the middle part essentially. So yeah, as you can see, this is included.
And actually, yeah, to your previous question, I think that the current implementation of the exchange protocol would not work with unqualified DIDs. So here it is required.
Sorry, current version of connection protocol?
DID exchange protocol.
DID exchange. Yeah, right. Got it. Yeah, so we have some positive tests which are apparently passing. This has been merged. So this is now with the scope of this crate, we consider this to be valid, kind of parsable DID just as much as we can parse qualified DIDs like these. So that's that. Next up, we had like a variety of changes in like these crates here. And this is like, again, some learnings took from all the DID peer and DID parser and DID exchange learnings Mira took while building the DID exchange protocol. Mira, do you have any, I don't know, kind of conclusion? I don't know, any words about this one?
The only point of this was like this. I just extracted some changes that I made in the DID exchange PR to the other crates, and this was basically taking account that we will be that the exchange PR will be open for a while, and meanwhile the libraries or crates that it's using will evolve to some extent. So yeah, I extracted those changes which are useful outside of the DID exchange implementation anyway, to make it basically easier to rebase the DID exchange PR on main while the crates that it uses are evolving as part of the other PRs.
Yeah, basically making the DID exchange PR a bit less beefy, right? Just focusing on the protocol rather than all the other kind of changes which came out of it in the other crates.
Makes it easier to review and so on.
Yeah, that's a great move. So yeah, we have this merge as well, and then lastly, well, this is wrong category. This is not done. This was open by B and it's rather in progress. Definitely not done. It's a small set of changes, as you can, very small delta. It's basically changes to make sure that it's gonna be convenient and not hacky for Nayan to implement the connection protocol on the mediator. So she can essentially, when she transitions by processing a request, she builds out the connection response and she can get that message and just send it back in the HTTP response. Yeah, which would be possible even with the current implementation, but this will make things bit simpler for that. yeah, so I need to finish this off, and it's to be reviewed, and then Nayan can start using it, hopefully. Then in review, we have did exchange PR. So please have a look at that. I have my PR, my review currently in progress. I'll be submitting my comments soon. To kind of, I guess, conclude the approach taken in this PR is essentially it's a state pattern. So the states on the lowest level, the states are given like Rust types, and you can call different methods on different states. It also has the generic layer on top of that, like we did with connection protocol before. And importantly, there's no message sending IO. So that was one of the like biggest pains, biggest crimes that been committed in old implementations. And also, whenever you essentially execute transition, you get back the new state. If the transition is successful, you get the new state, and you get the response message you shall be sending out. So I think that the PR, I mean, it can be modified, but I think we should get it merged. Like definitely make a review, leave comments, but I wouldn't want to make maybe a huge leaps in approach. Rather, let's consider it like, you know, first implementation, and if shall we do any bigger changes, we can still iterate on that further. But in the meantime, we have like actually functioning did exchange. Implementation works with Akapai, works between Aries VCX instances. I reviewed it. I have some comments for improvements. So yeah, please do the same. And let's get it in.
Regarding whether it's working or not, it would be I'm probably not speaking to the right audience, but it would be really nice if AFJ updated their AATH back channel so that I can test it against it, because that's the framework that we want to make sure that we are interoperable with. And right now we don't know. We can use our internal interoperability for this, but they are more limited in scope than AATH. So yeah, it would be really useful if they did. I'm mainly concerned about the possibility of some incompatible key formats or something which would force us to let's say to update or migrate to Aries Ascar instead from or something. So
Look at the wild idea. I don't know. It makes if it would make sense.
Makes sense what they are talking about.
The wild idea. I'm just about to say that perhaps we could have like very kind of minimal. Eventually, I'm not sure. Maybe it's not the right time, but eventually, some sort of like minimal cross framework testing in our CIF ourselves, and you know, we could only perhaps check the most kind of common scenarios, really the happy parts only, let's say, and maybe the combinations of the roles which is commonly used. So perhaps Aries VCX on client with Akapai, as as a server institution and perhaps mixed roles with AFJ. I don't know, something like that. Just we would have option to kind of with every change we make, we would know if we didn't break the most basic interop path between the other frameworks. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's a good idea. Just came to my mind that maybe in the future.
Yeah, or ATH tests can run using our a revision of our main branch periodically. We can also do that. Like the point of it, point of ATH is that it minimizes, or benefit in this regard is that it minimizes the effort required, like on all sides basically. We don't have to implement interoperability tests ourselves. Each maintainers of each project implement their own back channel, and then the tests are run periodically there, are implemented on one place against all back channels, not just
that's true. That's why I said it's a wild idea. I'm not sure if it's maybe it's not a good one. Okay, yeah, I guess it makes sense what you said. It would be kind of reduplication. I'm not sure if I can come up with a pitch of any benefits of proceeding with my suggestion idea. So I'll just leave it at that. And then so in progress, well, we have surely whole bunch of stuff in progress. But the only item I've managed to put in here is kind of ongoing AnonCreds RS contribution. Again, it's like I guess change to make things easier for us internally to consume AnonCreds RS. Bogdan, any comments you want to leave on this one?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so this one is focused on various map types that are being accepted in function signatures across the AnonCreds services API. And because this was mainly designed to work or be exposed to FFI, the arguments are kind of weird. And for instance, you would get the reference to a hash map where the keys and the values are both references, and you don't really get to see that in native code often, and that's for good reason. And it just makes it very, very weird to work with. So this basically aims to solve that, so that they can still do that in their FFI, but also allow us and everyone else really as native consumers to just work in a more organic fashion with the API.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I see we have currently one PR open, but there's a bunch of more. So revocation registry cleanups from Andrew.
Yeah, this was something I was asked to review.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool that you are also like participating in reviews of other PRs. That's great.
I know they tagged me, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna have a look.
Nice. That's great. Okay, so and well, we have passed migration. That's old news. Maybe since we are on this kind of topic and the AnonCreds RS, like, do you have like some sort of list of things you want to get done in AnonCreds RS, or like, do you have a idea what kind of the next changes you want to do?
I mean, those two were really the most painful. Besides that is really just the awkwardness of the revocation status list, but I don't know, we can live with that. Even those things, so those PRs were not necessarily crucial, but they will definitely simplify things from an implementation standpoint, and just makes them easier to go through and follow, and more efficient, really, for various reasons, like not having to construct a hash map of references when you already have the hash map, over owned types. Yeah, but so I'm kind of in between on working on the ledger trade refactor. That's a thing that's really pending, so we cannot we really cannot, under any way or any decent and I don't know sustainable way implement unowned RS before we refactor the ledger trades. So that's the pending thing. That will be plenty of work. I've also been kind of had my hands full with the state machines discussions we've been having and approaches and whatnot. So didn't really get to do that much on it. But on that, the plan is kind of set, at least in my mind. At least initially, we kind of need to, although not even initially, like for ledger implementations, we're going to need to have some associated types. Maybe now with the CredX being there, I don't know if LibVDR tools is still being used for unknown creds. Is it?
Yeah, the migration on our side is not yet completed. So
right. So it still is. Yeah. So basically, each of these crates, VDR tools, IndyCredX, unknown creds RS, they all expose types for various objects or revocation registry, credential definition, schema, whatnot. And even if they have, like, they look exactly the same, they're still different objects in terms of the Rust typing system. So hence the idea with the associated types that we discussed a couple of months ago. I don't really see any better way of doing this other than that. And when the migration is all done and we're going to exclusively be using unknown creds RS, then the associated types can be dropped on and just use the unknown creds RS types. But until that happens, there's really no easy way to do this migration and transition apart from this. So it's just a lot of work, but the picture is pretty clear to me on how to approach it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for update. And we are reaching end of our agenda. I just put a few note points here. So I was thinking, I open up the repo, and I think somebody already mentioned this. Maybe I don't know who it was weeks ago. That it's really great. Like, we modularized stuff, but yeah, now we start the number of directories itself in the root is starting to kind of grow overhead. So I was thinking how to kind of simplify the structure a little bit and make it a bit less overwhelming for whoever comes for a visit and tries to make sense of it. I think we don't really document like what all these directories are. So yeah, I think we should do some sort of just directory.
We could probably group them in some way. Maybe some of these, like, implementations could even be feature flagged. I don't know, but definitely some sort of grouping. Like, sometimes you just want a piece of bread and not a lot of crumbs. So I guess it's easier to keep track of if we group them by domain. So even if, like, the did resolver, for instance, so there are implementations for did solve, did web, and stuff like that, they could probably sit in, I don't know, the same parent directory or something like that. Even the messages and the messages macro crates, they could be maybe put together and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you guys agree? Other call participants?
No, I absolutely agree with what Bogdan said. Like, just taking a look at the directories now, you can see certainly a way to group to group them, some of them.
Okay.
Yep.
And then maybe one more kind of note here. Apparently, it's been for a while, but since we're doing lots of changes all over the place, I know I didn't address them, but I think we should also do some sort of mass lint fix, which gonna cause like deltas. Maybe after the did exchange. I know, just to make sure we don't trigger conflicts with any like upcoming PRs. We at some point, I think we should just bite the bullet and do like a kind of a mass lint fix. Or maybe we can do it like a little by little per crate, I guess, as well. But it's definitely overdue.
Is that because only some crates are being linted or checked that they're linted?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, well, for Clippy, I'm not sure if we are checking everything. Maybe not. And then, but even without Clippy, the compiler, every time I do cargo build, I see a whole bunch of warnings.
Yeah.
In lots of places. So we should kind of get it together.
Yeah, there's a lot of unused import errors, and it seems like cargo format doesn't fix them. At least how I use it doesn't fix them.
Oh, we used to have lots of these, and it was hard to fix when we had lots of features, and when tests, especially, were feature flagged, that was causing lots of kind of false positive kind of warnings, but it should be solvable now. So I think we just need to take a look at it and get it fixed, and also make sure that perhaps we tweak the CI such that we wouldn't allow these like kind of warnings to be created again, to pop like recreate themselves, reappear over time. Okay, so I think we agree with these points. And one more question I had for you guys. Usually I'm kind of hosting these calls, and I'm fine doing so, but at the same time, I just thought to give opportunity to you, or I wanted to ask if somebody's interested in kind of hosting the calls, making sure there's agenda ready, and that even if there's few participants, then the call all still happens and things like that. Or also we could do some sort of rotation that we would switch with whoever is interested. So I don't know, think about it, and you don't have to like give answer now, but if you'd like to participate in this sense, then let me know, and we can decide how we're gonna kind of organize, coordinate. Okay, and it seems like we ran out of points. And
I got
thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, you go first.
Oh, sorry, it's a quick one. Issue number 922. Are you able to pull that up quickly?
Issue. Okay, let's go to issues.
I opened it a while ago, but I didn't get the chance to talk about it. I'm not sure if you guys saw it at all.
Yeah, I remember a little bit, but definitely it's good if you give us some recap.
Yeah, I've just been working on some system tests, and one piece of behavior I noticed is that if you present two credentials that are from the same revocation registry, or if you present the same credential for two different attributes or predicates, and you present non-revocation proofs, it'll pick the same timestamp for both of them, even if you're asked to present completely different ranges. So that was the original issue, and it's sort of a deal, but not too big of a deal to worry about. But then I realized that if you try to present a revocable credential in a presentation that doesn't even request a revocation proof, Aries VCX will always assume that it should attempt to prove that it's not revoked, which in Akapi, if you request a proof as an Akapi verifier and you give it back a non-revocation proof when it didn't ask for one, it throws and says that it's not valid.
So just to make sure, so if Akapi requests, Akapi sends a proof request which doesn't require to prove non-revocation, but you nevertheless provide it, which, as I understand, happening in the Aries VCX, and you submit such a presentation, then Akapi will fail on that because you sent something it didn't really want to have.
Yeah, Aries VCX will, it'll always attempt to prove that it's not revoked, and Akapi doesn't play nice with that. Not sure how FJ goes.
Right. What do you see as the action plan? I saw that you started the PR, I guess, which is addressing the 834, or is it addressing this one?
It's addressing both the PR. They're pretty related. I started it 2 weeks ago, and then, to be honest, I forgot about it. But I just rebased then. So I can try finish it off next week. I think there's just that prover _ internal file that needs a little bit of a rework. I think it's a bit legacy from the old code base.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. Definitely. That's the area, I think, which haven't been touched much over for a long time, I think. So yeah, that would be great if you can contribute these improvements.
Yep, no worries.
Awesome.
I also wanted to bring up another point, kind of the elephant in the room. Well, maybe not your rooms, but there's definitely an elephant in my room, and that's the state machines. And we're kind of running out of time, so I'm not necessarily looking towards a lengthy discussion, but maybe just a quick sort of feedback round regarding that message-centric approach, and whether it's something we might want to do or we might not want to do, and so on.
Sorry, I think might want to do or might not want to do. Sorry.
As in, do we want to follow up on that, or do we just drop it and do something else?
The follow up.
As in, continue with some sort of implementation, or like work further on it. Is it something that's agreeable to us as a group, or not? Because I don't really want to keep thinking about solutions and implementations and whatever else if it's not agreeable to all of us.
I think so I would like us to find a common ground for sure. And so currently I'm personally focusing on finishing the review I have for Mira. I would like to get this merged, even if it's maybe not the final state, and we can iterate on it and find the right pattern we can apply everywhere.
Right.
I yet have to get back to your kind of draft. I left to review, but I didn't have chance to get back to your responses and review it and iterate further. So I'll finish this one, then I'll get back to your draft, and I also didn't want to I don't know, bring it into this meeting, but I have perhaps idea how we could go about it, and it's somewhat iteration on top of this, but it's a structural change in terms of the approach. I would say that it's something between the thing you've been directly suggesting in in your draft and what was implemented for the exchange. So we can definitely like set up a call and continue the discussion. I want us to agree and or at least find a majority which could agree on something. So
Okay.
I have some idea. I don't know if anyone's gonna like it either, but I will present that. I think we can do that outside of
Okay, I
this.
just didn't wanna have that sit in limbo because I find it to be a very important aspect of the overall architecture, and there's hasn't really been something that we, I guess, agreed on, all of us or most of us, or nothing that really strikes at least me like a good solution, given all the problems with the current approaches and proposed approaches so far. And I thought it might be worth just maybe all of us devoting some time to thinking about how to approach that, or review the proposed approaches, or even come up with new ones, like you're about to. So that was really just it.
Yeah. I mean that's fair.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, Bogan, I haven't looked at it. Your new revision. Is it under the same draft?
Yeah, it's on the
PR?
same PR. I didn't bother changing it. I don't know. I thought the discussion, like the history, might be, I don't know, pertinent in some way to the decisions made there. But in short, it kind of eliminates the overall idea of a state machine and just uses the messages to kind of keep track of state. So this essentially provides lower level control over what's going on. It's far from being complete, and right now it just focuses on like the message or the protocol specific content parts of messages. So no decorators and stuff like that, because I also think that should be handled sort of uniformly, but also outside of dedicated protocols. I have an idea about how to go about it. Nothing concrete yet, but anyway. Yeah, so overall I'm thinking that some sort of destructuring of a message, one thing that this PR also, and this message centric approach also um I don't know, brings into spotlight is the fact that we don't really have builders for messages, which can easily be implemented. It's just never been done before because it wasn't really a pressing matter. But technically, if we would go with this message-centric approach, it might be actually helpful for us and for consumers to have builders for these messages, so that messages are built in, correctly and whatnot. But the trickier part is really processing the messages, and for that, I'm actually thinking of something. I don't even know if there's some name for this, but kind of an opposite of a builder, which is not really a destructor, but anyway, like a sequential sort of processing of decorators, and then ultimately the protocol specific content and whatnot. Iteratively, um, with a type state builder, where you get a different type where, okay, you provided some part of the structure you're trying to build. With this, we essentially provide a different type with once a specific part of the message has been processed, so that we can even control maybe the sequence in which things are getting processed. Like, okay, you're supposed to process maybe the thread first, because if the thread doesn't match, then the message is practically useless. Or there's like these please acknowledge decorator, and it has these implications that you are supposed to reply with an ACK on message receipt, and an ACK on message outcome, like after we processed it. It's very intricate, but I think that we might be able to pull it off like that. I had a different idea yesterday about some kind of visitor sort of pattern, but I don't think that's actually going to play out nicely. Yeah, so the decorator stuff is kind of still in the dark, and mostly, but maybe this approach might make things, it might actually work. But yeah, I don't really want to drag this on, so maybe we can talk some other time or next week about it.
Yeah, we
Just
can.
wanted to put it out there.
Yep, we can definitely set up some call. I think I wouldn't wait until the next week. That's a long time to wait, but we can just
Yeah, I mean, it would also be helpful to kind of have something to talk on. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around all of it. So, yeah, but I'm basically gonna try to kind of focus on the thread and maybe the timing decorator, like the stuff that is currently being used in the connection protocol to kind of drive that demo test to completion. And like I said, basically have something to talk on, because otherwise it's just a lot of speculating and it doesn't really help anyone.
All right. So yeah, let's do some more work. Let's do some reviews, and then let's talk some more.
All right.
I'm very interested in the builder pattern for messages, by the way. I think that's one of the things.
I knew you would, actually. Because yeah, you did mention at some point that you want to have, like, your use cases are that you change some stuff in the messages that the current implementation spit out, and I guess that's actually a fair thing. So especially for like the decorators part, you definitely might want to add some things or take out some things or whatnot. I don't know, so that you can actually build a message that's specific to your agent implementation. And in the same fashion, the processing of the message, having lower level pieces, like sort of a sequential approach in terms of processing it, might give you more control over what gets stored and where and how. So it's basically going in the complete opposite direction of that state machine storage interface that I proposed initially, which was supposed to kind of abstract some things away from consumers. This is mainly made to kind of make things, give them as much control as possible. And it's not, one thing I want to make clear from the start is that this is, even if we're fine with this, it's not like this is what should be the main consumer facing API. We might be able to abstract some things away from it, or maybe build some sort of framework on top of it, or I don't know, so to make it easier for other people to work with, but if needed, by all means. But ultimately, I guess the overall thing is that we want to provide smaller bits and pieces and building blocks for people to build things however they want. So that's why I thought that going in the opposite direction might be a better idea.
Okay, guys. Yeah, let's continue in discussions and brainstorming, and we'll see what conclusions we'll have next Thursday out of it. So in the meantime, fingers crossed for our development, and I'll see you next week, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
See you.